Hi everyone, this is Serverless Camp Week 1, Step 4 by Bit Project. My name is Emily, and in this video we'll be going over Azure, how to get started, and how to write your very first HTTP trigger. So the first thing we're going to do, as always, is create a new branch called HackerVoice. You go to Visual Studio Code, git checkout, http HackerVoice. Make sure to run git pull. This updates the main branch with whatever changes you have online in your repository. I did not do that. I already did it before. So just to review, you could just do it like this, git pull origin main. All right, let's continue. So the next step is to create an Azure account. Now I'm not going to walk through setting up Azure locally on VS Code or creating an Azure account because we have good resources on this page. I'm going to dedicate this video to explaining the actual project and the concepts instead of just these procedural processes that have tutorials that are available online. Okay. Create an HTTP Azure function, trigger Azure function that gets content from a request parameter called password and returns it in the function's body. Now, as of now, that might sound like a bunch of gibberish to you, so let's break it down. The first thing you're going to want to do is to go to your Azure account, and we're going to create a new function app. So I'm just going to go to Azure, and once you're at Azure, you're going to click create a resource where you can search function app up, or you can just click it right here. It is available. You can click create and it'll take you to a new page. Select your subscription. Now resource groups. Resource groups, you might not have one yet. You could create a new one. Resource groups are basically just a place where you put all of the resources in a group together. So let's say you're making a project that might require a function app. And it might also require something else from Azure. It could be a database or anything like that. You could put everything from that specific project into a single resource group so everything is organized in one place. I'm not going to click create for this function app because I already have one done, but you could use a new one that you don't have yet. I guess I will create a new one as well, just for demos. All right, and then what can you call it? I'm going to call it same name, very creative. Runtime stack, we're going to be using Node.js, and it should autofill everything for you. For the region, you would want to select the region that's closest to you. I'm going to review and create, and click create. So I'll be back once this deployment is done. All right, so the deployment is complete. I just wanted to show you guys what it looked like. You'll probably be referring back to this function app very soon after this project, so I would recommend just having it open possibly. But your functions, which you will be creating, will be stored in this tab. Now, before we get back to it, I just want to talk about what a function is. A function is kind of like an API. You're writing code, and the code is going to be stored online. It's going to be stored in the cloud in Microsoft. So anytime a user calls your function, Microsoft has your code, and as a provider for this service, they will run your code in the cloud. You don't have to run it on your computer. You don't have to worry about where it is. You don't have to worry about when it runs. Microsoft handles that all for you. All you have to do is provide the code. So if you took this course because you want to learn about serverless, that's what serverless is. You don't have to worry about servers. And Microsoft does that all for you. You just need to worry about code. All right, so let's get started writing the actual code then. So we want to create an HTTP trigger Azure function, and let's go ahead and do that. So if you go to Visual Studio Code, if you have the Azure extension all installed, you should have this tab here. If you don't, feel free to ask questions. We can help you get that resolved, and also use Google. But the first thing you're going to do is just click create function. So I'm going to click that. Yes, initialize project. you want to click an HTTP trigger template. And what that is like we talked about before with the Cat as a Service API, it used the protocol of HTTP to run, to get a cat picture back. So what this trigger is triggered by is an HTTP request. You might be able to do get to the your Azure function. You might be able to do post. Those are all ways to trigger the function to run your code. Right. I'm going to call it, well, we have to call it HackerVoice. And press enter. Your authorization level is going to be function. And you get this template. Now, I would encourage you to actually just run this template and see what happens. It might look kind of foreign at first, especially with this kind of syntax that you might not have seen before. But let's go ahead and do a quick preview of what it actually does. So if you have everything successfully installed and configured, you should be able to run func start, and the Visual Studio Code will run your Azure function locally. So you should find the function called HackerVoice, and it should have a URL right next to it. So let's go ahead and actually try that out. So I'm going to copy the URL, and I'm going to just click on a new tab, and let's see what happens. So if I just put the URL into the tab, now remember this code is running locally on your computer because we are testing it locally. If you were to deploy it onto the cloud, that would mean that you're putting your code into Microsoft, you're uploading it there so that they can run it. Right now, it's only available on our computer. So the output is this HTTP trigger function executed successfully. Pass a name in the query string or in the request body for a personalized response. So if you go back in the code, this is where the response is, right here. This code is basically saying if there is no name as a parameter, then we are going to send this to the user. However, if there is a name in the parameter, we can pass this back. So let's try adding a name parameter and let's see what happens. So I do question mark, name equals Emily. And voila, you see the function returns, hello Emily, this HTTP triggered function executed successfully. So this is just a demo of how the template works, and we are actually going to be building something very similar to this, if not even simpler. So let me go ahead, you can go ahead and delete lines 3 through 7 of this code. Just go ahead and get rid of that. All right, let's get started. And you'll see that the logs, actually, I wanted to point this out. You'll see that the logs log out here in your console, so you can see when your function runs. If there's an error, it'll tell you. Let's stop running this so we can do Control-C to end the process. All right. Let's go back to the instructions. So we want to get content from a request parameter called password and return it. All right, that should be kind of simple. It's kind of like what the previous code did. You could even modify it to do this task. All right, let's go ahead and scroll down. So just to review, these are what parameters are. At the end of a URL, you might see parameters like this. You might have seen it on a website when you copy paste a link. Those are parameters. So the question now is how to get content from a request parameter. And here you go. Here's the syntax. You can do whatever the name of the variable you want to name your parameter as, and then rec.query whatever the parameter name is going to be. So in our case, we want the parameter name is password, and it's always helpful to make some comments so you know what you're doing your code on later on when you're reading it again. So I'm just going to call var password equals rec.query.password. So this single line of code is going to get the value of the parameter password into your code. So as you can see here, that's the syntax, and we would basically be getting this value that's behind the equal sign. So we can also log this out, context.log, and we can put it in our console to see if it actually worked. Now finally, what we need to do is actually just return this value back to the user. So as you can see in the instructions, it says returns it in the function's body. Now the function's body is actually this text right here. That is the body of the request. That is what the response is from the function. It's very simple. You can see context.res, res is short for result, and you can see body is a response message. We just want to change this. We don't want it to be response message. That was from the template. We want it to be password, because we just want to return the password back, which stores the value of this parameter. Now, after that long ramble from me, let's check it out and see if it actually works. Okay, we're going to test the function locally to confirm that it works. And what's helpful about doing it locally is that you don't have to click upload every time. It's kind of like when you edit, let's say you edit a file on your computer. You're editing it locally, and then when you're ready, you can upload it to your email and send it out. If you didn't test it locally, or if you didn't edit your file locally, what you would have to do is you'd have to edit it, upload it, figure out, oh, there's a mistake, download it, edit it again, upload it again. So it's basically a much more time-consuming process than just testing it locally. Okay, so like before, you just do func host start, and it'll run the function locally. And once again, you can copy paste this URL. And what we're going to do is we're going to append, because remember our parameter's name is password, and we want to pass in a value. And I'm just going to pass in hello. There you go. It returns hello to us, and we've confirmed that it works locally. What the function did, once again, is that it took in the parameter's value for password, and it also returned it right back to the user through the function's body. And you can also see here that we were able to log it out in the console. Okay, so let's deploy our function because we've already tested it. Now what we're going to do is you can click on this little cloud right here in your Visual Studio Code, and you're going to want to select a function app. So this is the function app that I just created with you guys couple 10 minutes ago maybe. So if you want to click on that, and it'll say it's going to overwrite everything. That's totally fine. That's what you want to do. Click deploy. And it's going to run this whole task to deploy all your stuff. So I'll be back once it's done. All right, so now the deployment is complete. You can just press any key to close this prompt. And let's go ahead and get the URL to our deployed function that is now running in the cloud. So you want to go back to Azure, and like I said before, you wanted to have this function app open so you could reference it later. You can just refresh the page and you'll see that you should only have one Azure function. This is from a previous project that I already had, so just ignore that one. But you'll see that you have HackerVoice. You're going to want to click on that, and if you see get function URL, you want to click on that too, and click copy. So we can go ahead and test this actually. So I'm going to paste it in, do it just like we did before. And actually, I want to use Postman for this. Let's get that out. If you create a new tab, put your function URL in, and for the key, you're going to want to do password, and you can put anything in here. This should be returned. If you go ahead and send it out, awesome. This should be returned is returned. So now that we've confirmed once again that our function actually works, and we confirmed it with Postman this time, we're going to want to add it to a repository secret. And this is just so that we can check your code to make sure it actually works. Not that we don't trust you guys, but it's also a way for you to check yourself. Okay, so in order to create a repository secret, you go to settings in GitHub on your repository, and then you're going to click on secrets, actions, new repository secret, and it's going to be called HackerVoice endpoint. Go ahead and paste that value in, click add secret, and you're done. So our final step is going to be pushing and committing the code to the HackerVoice branch. All right, so as usual, add git commit -m complete step, should be step 4, git push version, and remember to put the branch's name, which is HackerVoice, and we've went ahead and done that. So another trusty feature of Visual Studio Code is this GitHub link. In Mac, you would hold command and then click on this to get redirected here. And actually this opened up in my other browser, so I'm gonna have to copy paste it over. But it gives you a handy link to just open a pull request, which is really nice. I'm gonna call it complete part 1 of HackerVoice. What changes that I made? I edited Azure function template, created first HTTP trigger function, and I'm going to create a pull request. So while we're waiting for the bot to approve this, I just wanted to talk about what actually happens in this function. Basically, after you deployed it to the cloud, and now whenever anyone can call that URL, even us, and it will return and do exactly what it did locally on our machine. So that's the beauty of the cloud. All right, that's about it for this step, step 4. Join us in the next video where we're going to be adding to this project one more feature. All right, bye.